back, let us continue with our discussion on performance appraisal. In the last lecture, we discussed on high performance work system. We understood what is performance management. We discussed on the link of performance management and performance appraisal. We understood what is the link of performance appraisal with job analysis and job evaluation. In this session, we are going to continue our discussion on performance appraisal, like on understanding what are the different types of performance appraisal processes, how it can be classified, what are the advantages and disadvantages of it, and how to do an interview and other things. So let us see, begin with what are the different types of performance appraisal methods. The techniques of performance appraisal methods which have been adopted are the approaches which could be classified as whether they are past oriented approach or whether they are future oriented approach. In past oriented approach, it is already like what the employees have done, and we are just going to review that and take a feedback on that. In the future oriented approach, the focus is on what the employees can do, okay, what they are able to achieve, what are their potentials, what are their competencies. So we have two sets of approaches, the past oriented approach and the future oriented approach. In past oriented approach, there are different ways of like techniques of appraisal, like rating scales, force choice method, force distribution method, critical incident method, behavioral anchored rating scale, field review method, checklists, essay method, cost accounting, feedback method, annual confidential report, comparative evaluation. In future oriented methods, there are methods like management by objectives, psychological appraisal, assessment appraisal, and assessment center. In the next discussions, like here, we may not get the time to discuss on all these methods in details, but we're going to choose few of these important methods and discuss in details about it. So let us move ahead. So each of these methods can be classified under different headings. So first heading, we have the category scaling method. Why it is called category scaling method? Here there are different categories defined and the employees are given marks on their performance based on those categories, which defines the like excellence achieved in the work. So first is a graphic rating scale. It tells that which allows the scale that allows the rater to indicate any employee's performance on a continuum of job behaviors. What are the aspects of performance measured are descriptive categories, job duties, and behavioral dimensions. And the behavioral rating scale is a version of the graphic rating scale. What are the drawbacks of this is it is restrictions on the range of possible rater responses, differences in the interpretations of the meanings of the scale items and scale ranges by the raters, poorly designed scales that encourages raters errors, and rating from deficiency limits effectiveness of the appraisal. Now, what are the defining standards? Maybe we take example of one company. It is 5 means outstanding. Like the person is so successful at this job criterion that the special note should be made and performance ranks in the top 10%. 4 is exceeds expectations. Performance is better than average for the unit given the common standards and unit results. 3 is meets expectations. Performance it is at or above the minimum standards. This level is what one should expect from most experienced, competent employees. Below expectations is performance is somewhat below the minimum standards. However, potential to improve within a reasonable time frame is evident. Unsatisfactory performance is below standards. Whether the person can improve to meet the standards is questionable. So you can define 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 in this way. Behavioral or objective methods are in it, the employee's behaviors are assessed instead of other characteristics. So, consists of series of scales created by identifying important job dimensions, creating statements describing a range of desired and undesirable behaviors, which we call behavioral anchors. The types of behavior scales are behaviorally anchored rating scale, behavioral observation scale, and behavioral expectation scales. Let us see a behaviorally anchored rating scale for customer service scales. When you talk of unsatisfactory, which is point 1, we see argued with customer about suitability of the requested products. Point 2, which talks of discourage customer from waiting for an out of stock item. Satisfactory, which is point 3, referred customer to another product when requested item was not available. 4, which is moving towards outstanding, is offered additional pertinent information when asked questions by customers, and in outstanding, which is 5, used positive phrases to explain products. So this is why we talk of behaviorally anchored rating scale. What you find, each of these points are anchored with a behavior which demonstrates like customer service skills of the customer service representative. Category ranking methods, one of that is the checklist. It is a performance appraisal tool that uses a list of statements or work behaviors that are checked by raters. Can be quantified by applying weights to individual checklist items. What are the drawbacks? Are interpretation of items and meanings are by rater, so it may vary from rater to rater. Weighing creates problems in appraisal interpretation. Assignments of weights to items by persons other than the raters may also be like problematic. There are comparative methods which we call ranking methods, a listing of all employees from highest to lowest in performance. The drawbacks is does not take into consideration the size of differences in performance between the employees. Implies that lower ranked employees are unsatisfactory performers. Becomes an like unwieldy process if the group to be ranked is very large. It is not readily applicable to small groups of employees. Forced distribution is another comparative method in which ratings of employees are distributed along a bell-shaped curve. The drawbacks are it assumes a normal distribution of performance, resistance by managers to placing individuals in the lowest or the highest groups, providing explanation for placement in a higher or lower group can be difficult, and it is not really applicable to small groups of employees. So this is a picture of the force distribution on a bell-shaped curve where you by force put people into different like on the left and the right side of the bell curve, and people may have reservations about putting candidates in the extremes of this either outstanding or unsatisfactory, especially for this unsatisfactory whether to by force put some candidate into the unsatisfactory layer. There are narrative methods like critical incident which talks of manager keeps a written record of highly favorable and unfavorable employee actions. The drawbacks are variation in how managers define a critical incident, time involved in documenting employee actions. Most employee actions are not observed and may become different if observed. Employee concerns about managers' black books. Another narrative method is that of essay method. Manager writes short essay describing an employee's performance. The drawback is it depends on managers' writing skills and their ability to express themselves. Management by objective is the future method that we have discussed. It is specifying the performance goals that an individual and his or her manager agree the employee will try to attain within an appropriate length of time. The key MBO ideas are employees' involvement creates higher levels of commitment and performance. It encourages employees to work effectively towards achieving desired results. Performance measures should be measurable and should define the results. The MBO process is job review and agreement, development of performance standards, objective setting, and continuing performance discussions. One of the important future oriented method which needs special mentioning is that of assessment center. It is an opportunity for managers to see what you can do rather than hear what you can do. It measures directly the skills and behaviors required to be successful. It is where simulated tasks and situations are given, um, which are very similar to target jobs, and the managers can observe how you are trying to solve the problems given at work, which gives them an idea of how we will be performing in the real life situation. Multiple raters are involved to avoid bias, and it is also the opportunity for the candidate to give feedback about the nature of the job, the complexities of the job, the demands made by the managers from the employees, and to get a feeling of the demands of the job and the organizational culture. So, it is a very important technique of assessment. One of the very important parts for performance appraisal is the training of the managers and the employees. Why it is important? Because a training of both the appraiser and the appraisee is very important, because if the appraiser needs a training to understand how to look, like what to look for in the appraisee, how to communicate the feedback and other things, and training is required also for the appraisee to understand how to interpret the job situation, how to map one's skills and knowledge with the demands of the job situation and express oneself properly. So, what could be the topics for appraisal training are appraisal process and timing, performance criteria and job standards that should be considered, how to communicate positive and negative feedback, this is very important, when and how to discuss training and development goals, conducting and discussing the compensation review, how to avoid common rating errors. Some of the common rating errors that are possible are like the varying standards from the rater's side. The practical impact is on similar performances are rated differently. Recency and primacy effects, timing of information affects rating. Central tendency, leniency, and strictness errors, these are errors in which everybody is rating the same, because the rater may feel like I don't want to be um, like perceived as a bad employer or a bad manager by my employees, so it's better I give them everybody a average ranking. So that leads to central tendency bias, or some raters may be lenient in giving marks, so that leads to leniency error. Some people may be too strict in evaluating, that leads to strictness bias. Rater's bias is where the rater's own value systems and prejudices affect ratings. Then halo and horn effect, like if you're good in one aspect, that may the rater may try to perceive like that a generalization is made about whether you're good in all aspects, or if you're bad in one aspect, the generalization is made like you're really bad in all the aspects, which is not correct. So based on one trait, whether you're good or bad in it, a generalization is made about the you as a person or as a performer, which is not a very desirable thing. Contrast error is when you are compared with the other person and not with the performance standards. And similar to me, different to from me, error is where the rater compares employees to self and tries to rate in that way. Sampling error, in where the available information is insufficient or inaccurate to come to some conclusion about the employee's performance. One of the very important part of appraisal methods is appraisal interviews. So we are discussing this in details over here because it is sometimes in the interview, it is very important to conduct the interview properly so that you are able to find out the as much information as you require about the employees, maybe the performance. You are able to discuss on what are the developmental goals of the person, how the person aims to contribute towards the organizational goals, how the person sees his or her own career prospects, and many other things. Maybe what are the like constraints in the person, then what training needs the person may have. So interviewing really has a very important role in the whole appraisal process. So we are discussing it separately over here. So there are certain do's and don'ts of interview which are going to discuss first. Like for the interviewer, it is very important to prepare oneself before you go for interviewing. So prepare in advance, focus on performance and development, then be specific about the reasons for ratings, decide on specific steps to be taken for improvement, then consider the supervisor's role in the subordinate's performance, reinforce desired behavior, focus on future performance. In don'ts, the first is do not do all the talking by yourself, let the employees talk also. Do not lecture the employee. So do not mix performance appraisal and salary or promotion issues. Concentrate only on the Do not concentrate only on the negative, try to discuss on the positive aspects also. Be overly critical or harp on a failing. Feel it is necessary that both the parties agree in all areas. It may not be possible. All the employees may not always agree to whatever you are saying. There will be differences of opinion, but you have to see like how you can work together to reach the organization's objectives and also the employees develop. And you have to recognize the difference, respect the difference, and then move ahead. Compare the employees with the others, one employee with the other. That should never be done. There are different styles of interviewing. Like first is the tell and sell style, where the appraiser acts as a judge, tells the appraisee the results and how to improve. Tell and listen, the appraiser communicates the outcomes and listens to reactions. Problem solving, the appraisee is encouraged to discuss problem areas and consider solutions. Performance appraisal, and what is the interview structure? First is the preparation. Both the parties need to prepare well. The appraiser needs to prepare about what style to adopt, gather the evidence from all the parties, and appraisee needs to prepare about self assessment. The structure, the purpose and rapport building, agree on the purpose and structure, and then the factual review of the known facts. There are certain interviewing skills like the appraisee views. So, comments on the last time period it gone well, what could be improved, likes and dislikes. Appraiser views like the ask the questions, offers views and comments. Problem solving, how can any difference be resolved? Objective setting, what actions should be taken by whom and on what time scale. So these are certain things which needs to be like you have to nurture these skills so that you can discuss this properly during interview time. Also, you have to like ask the right questions. You like open question, probing question, follow up and reflective questions. Engage in active careful listening to all forms of communication. Provide feedback based on evidence and examples. Avoid a focus on failure controlled by the appraiser and which ends maybe with a disagreement. So we need to avoid on all these things. Ideally, there is the appraisal meeting is where the appraisees do most of the talking. Appraisers listen actively and provide feedback. Scope for reflection and analysis is there, so there is an exchange of views. Performance is analyzed and not the personalities. Whole period is reviewed, not just isolated incidents which are evidence based. Achievement is recognized and reinforced. Identify areas for improvement and set on agree objectives. Then ends positively with agreed action plans to improve performance. It is a very important part to get a feedback, and feedback as a system is an integrated part of performance appraisal system. So what you get in the feedback system is the data and the evaluation of the data and what is the action based on the evaluation. So like what data you get out of the appraisal, how you evaluate it, your interpretation of it, and what you need to do to like work on the interpretation. Like if you feel like you are maybe need to develop something, so what are your action plans? So if you're already good in something, then also what are your action plans, how you need to flourish in more in that area, or you need to nurture yourself in other areas. All these taken together will constitute the feedback system. Now, what are the advantages of performance appraisal are scientific application of performance appraisal. It helps to motivate the employees. The performance appraisal boosts the morale of the employees and motivates them to work more towards achieving the goal of the organization. Then it promotes teamwork spirit and it identifies the employees' strengths and weaknesses. So, specifically, weak areas also where the person needs to develop, and strong strength areas which maybe that person is going to give them an opportunity to flourish for self assessment and self development. So, develop a merit based system in the organization for reward and promotion also. So it helps to meet up the expectations. When expectations are clearly defined, it shows this performance reviews shows a systematic approach to finding out whether the expectations have been met or not in very clear terms, and what are the future plans to meet those things if there are certain deficits over there. So it also clarifies the employees' roles and responsibilities in the organization and reaching out to new heights. So it helps in promotion because it is an effective way to understanding who has contributed in what way, who has the potential to growth, take up the next higher responsibilities in the organization. And so it helps in succession planning also. So it brings out the areas for required for human resource development, because you get to see like where training is required, what are the future areas for recruitment, and like who are the possible candidates who will be leaving the organization or maybe getting terminated from the work. So all this kind of feedback will help you to do your staffing properly also. So underperformers here are also encouraged to work, they are encouraged to develop, motivated to improve their skills. So they are given chances to improve before they are laid off. Then it helps for the career development of employees, and it helps in the retention of good employees, because they are the people who may be in the future, if they are nurtured properly, they can contribute more to the organization's goal, and also they will be also flourishing and enjoying to contribute more. So underperformers also, if they are given a hand holding support and they are given an opportunity to develop, that is also motivating for them to maybe improve on their performances, and they are also going to get engaged with them, committed towards the organization, because they will always respect that the organization has taken an effort to like invest on their development, take care like that they grow and like enhance their skills, and they will be ready to contribute back to the organization's objectives. Performance appraisals serve many purposes for the organization, which are really important. So, the important areas for this contribution are, it one is very important, it like it identifies the employee's capabilities. It helps in maintaining documentation, because it is a very detailed process and it is a continuous process done throughout the year. It helps in maintaining the employee's performance documentation for time periods for which he or she is serving the organization. So it also helps in making like the qualitative assessment and quantitative assessments. So it helps in understanding the not only the performance, but the nature of the performance, and what are the expectations of the employees, what are the expectation of the employers, their mutual expectation from each other, and to work on the feedback and then work on the weak areas for development and how they can be improved. It helps to identify the training needs also. So like what are the deficiency areas and how the employee needs and hand holding support, and what can be done for the employees to improve on it. It helps in building up the relation between management and the employee, and it helps to identify employee specialization. It helps to identify the potential and the other areas of expertise of the employee, which can be useful for the organization, uh, and provide them a chance to explore more. So which is like a win-win situation there, because the employee also gets the opportunity to explore more in the areas of interest and specialization. They will be motivated to like go for the try for that area more, find out new things, way of doing new things, and in the and that ultimately contributes towards the betterment of the organizational performance. So in this session we try to give you an overall concept of the types, importance, methods, and advantages of performance appraisal. We try to brief you on the relationship of the performance appraisal with the job analysis and job evaluation, so that you get an overall idea of performance appraisal, and we discussed in detail some of the important techniques of uh, performance appraisal and how they're classified under different headings. We discussed on some of the past oriented techniques and future oriented techniques, of which MBO and assessment centers are two very important techniques. We discussed also about the importance of interviewing and what skills you need to nurture to be a good interviewer, appraiser, and also how the appraisee needs to be prepared about going for an performance appraisal interview. We discussed about the advantages also of the and the importance of the performance appraisal techniques. In the next part of the lecture session, we'll be discussing more on the concepts and techniques of career strategy, because all these things, when we talk of the staffing of the organization, recruitment and selection processes, we are talking of performance appraisal, career strategy, these are all very interlinked concepts. And so, in the next phase of the discussion, in the next lecture, we are going to focus on career development, career management, and career strategy. We'll be meeting you next in the next lecture. Stay tuned till then. Thank you.